Well, my son looked at my notes this morning, and he was down in my office, and he caught a glimpse of some dad jokes that I'd printed off, and he said, "Dad, you're not going to do those, are you?" And I go, "Well, yeah, son, I think I am." He goes, "Those are going to totally be cringe, but anyway, that's okay." So I have some dad jokes. Anybody like dad jokes? Come on, you got to have that. Here's one. It says, "I was addicted to hokey pokey, but I turned myself around." Boo, Paul. "I don't trust stairs. They're always leading up to something." "When I was a kid, my dad got fired from his job as a road worker for theft. I absolutely refused to believe it. He could do such a thing, but when I got home, the signs were all there." Why do you never see elephants hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it. When does a joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent. There you go. Somebody's on that. "I had a really happy child. My dad used to put me in tires and roll me down the hills. Those were good years." What invention allows us to see through walls? Windows. Did you hear that they arrested the devil? Yeah, they got him on possession. How do you tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? You'll see one later and one in a while. What do you call a fish with no eye? So if you witness or you see a robbery at an Apple store, does that make you an eyewitness? And here's my absolute favorite. I still laugh about this one, so you get some sense of my jaded sense of humor. "My dentist offered me dentures for only $1. It sounded like a good deal at the time, but now I have buck teeth." Yeah, that's my kind of dad joke. You know, being a dad isn't a joke. I was watching a video, a small clip from Steve Harvey, the talk show host, the comedian, and he basically said that it doesn't take much to be a father, but it takes a lot to be a dad. You know, prior to the 1970s, research on the impact of fathers and how they really touched their families was practically non-existent. In fact, there's a well-known survey that surveyed 2,000 families about the impact of fatherhood on their children, on their families themselves. And not one single dad was actually interviewed for the survey. And so over the centuries, it seems that most people have viewed fatherhood as less than significant. But that actually is changing. There is a new awareness in not only the value, but almost the absolute need, not just almost, the absolute need for fathers. In fact, I was reading and listening to some scholars talk from Oxford University. There are some studies in neuropsychology that are going on even now that have discovered that men experience neurological and psychological changes during their wife's pregnancy that actually equips them for the role of being a dad. These studies confirm that there is a difference between a man and a woman, and that gender itself is not purely a social construct. But I digress. That's not what I'm necessarily talking about. But what they're finding out is that there is something on the DNA level and in the brain that is totally different from women. And there's actual studies that show that when when spouses or wives become pregnant, there is something that happens in a man's brain that prepares him to be a father and enables him to do many of the things that his wife cannot do. It's fascinating things that are being discovered about men and their value to their families. Being a dad is absolutely important. Say it with me, everybody, dads are important. So I need some help from all my young kids, my youngers. I want you to do this. I want you to turn and find a guy, and I want you to give him a high five really quick and say, dads are important. Men are important. Do that. Give a high five. Come on. We're going to do that right now. We're going to affirm our men in this place this morning. We're going to make sure that they feel like they are important. Now, be careful, some of you young guys, because you're strong and you might hurt us old men. So be careful, all right? Dita M. Oliker, a PhD, she's a clinical psychologist in Los Angeles. She stated this: there's no question that fathers do play an important part in their children's lives. The majority of studies affirm that an involved father can play a crucial role, particularly in the cognitive, behavioral, and general health and well-being areas of a child's life. Having a positive role model helps an adolescent boy develop positive gender role characteristics. Adolescent girls are more likely to form positive opinions of men and are better able to relate to them when parented by an involved father. It is generally accepted under most circumstances that a father's presence and involvement can be as crucial to a child's healthy development as a mother's, and experiencing validation of their importance in the general parenting literature has made fathers much more conscious of their value, which in turn leads to their greater desire to be involved. Listen, guys, no matter what the TV says, no matter what the news media says, no matter what those magazines say, no matter how they portray dads in this day and age, you matter. You are important. And I think that what's happening in at least the research area of our world is it's proving that we do matter. And the ideas of the lazy, non-involved dad that comes home from a hard day's work, sits down on the couch, cracks a beer, and commands his wife and children to take care of him for the rest of the day, those days are really over. And it has been for a long time, because I look around this room and I see a group of dads that are involved in the lives of their families. And it's time that we not only celebrate the value of mothers, but we celebrate the value of our fathers in this place as well. Why Dad Matters. Glenn T. Stanton, he's an author and a lecturer, speaks on the circuit in places for Focus on the Family. He said, the reality of distinct males and female natures extends far beyond the bedroom and the bathroom. It shows itself on the playground, in the community, at the school, and on the street. Both a man and a woman are required for the creation of a new child, and both are equally indispensable for rearing that child. This holds true no matter what continent we live in or in what century. To deny that is delusional. By building families and culture that affirm the importance of both fathers and mothers, we can give our children, all of them, the childhood which they are entitled to, which they deserve, and which they require. You see, being a dad is absolutely important for the welfare of our children and the children of this generation. And you may be here this morning and not be a dad. That doesn't mean that you can't be a dad to so many. One of the things that I really try to do at our church is to high five and hug as many of the kids and affirm them as I possibly can. They think, no, that's a weird thing. No, it's not. It's a pastoral thing. It's a dad thing. It's a loving thing. Because I want our kids in our church to know that men are trustworthy, that there are good dads in this place, and they can aspire to a relationship with someone that would model those types of characteristics. I want them to see what fatherhood really looks like, what it looks like to be a dad. And if I can be a part of that, then I want to do that. Sometimes I feel like that over there too. But what does it mean to be a dad? Being a dad means commitment, which really boils down, if you look at the word love, and if you understand it in a New Testament perspective, love really means commitment. And I believe that being a dad means a commitment to love and to affection. Kids need to know that we're with them no matter what. How many of you know they're going to make mistakes? How many of you be honest to say that I was one of those kids? Paul, I only see one of your hands up. I know better for that. I don't know what I'm going to do when you move to Texas, because I'm not going to have anybody to pick on, because you're just fun to pick on. Clement? No, he's too nice. Clement's nice. I'll do it long distance. You just watch on the video and I'll roast you from afar. People will laugh. That's all right. Kids also need hugs and high fives. In fact, it's time for another high five to the dads around. And go ahead, kids, give another high five and affirm those dads around you, would you? You know something? And again, in our culture, in our day and age, we're cautioned to be careful with our kids. And I understand that. There are predators out there. We need to shelter our kids. We need to teach them what appropriate touch and all those things are. But on the overcautious side of that, if we're so sheltered that we shelter our children from physical touch, we're actually robbing them of something that's really important to them. Now, you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying be careful with your children. But there are people in this room, men and women in this room, that are trustworthy. And that a hug and a high five from people that are trustworthy, I know it for some can seem risky. But I think it can be very healthy. And I want to encourage us as dads, as fathers, to touch, give hugs, give hand high fives to our children. There's all kinds of research out there that demonstrates the truth that touch matters to children. There's something I believe that God created in us that transmits life through the touching of our hands. Kids need words of affirmation like, you can do it. You have what it takes. God will direct you in your life. I'm praying for you. Being a dad means commitment to love, no matter what they do, no matter how they act. How many of you know that's not always easy? Come on. The second thing, being a dad means sacrifice. John 15, 12 through 13. I want everybody to read that with me. I think it's on the screen here. It will be. John 15. Everybody read it. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. The ultimate expression of that love is sacrifice. I was blessed in this department. My dad, at least as far as I remember, always lived sacrificially. It actually impacts the way that I've parented, or I am parenting. I've told the stories of him getting in the car, taking Friday off, and driving 8 hours one way, to watch me play a few quarters in a JV game. 8-minute quarters, by the way. And get in the car and drive all the way back, and was glad and celebrated my accomplishments. And he spent 16 to 20 hours in the car, depending on if there was snow, for a few minutes of my basketball life. And he did that throughout all of my high school career. Now, I wasn't on the JV the whole time. I actually did start, but so it was worth a little bit more of his investment. But my experience with my dad is that he was more than willing to sacrifice his time and his finances for us. I remember when things were tough as a kid financially, that he would go without the things that I know that he wanted for the sake of me and my sister. One of my kids was a part of the swim team, and she was in all kinds of AP classes. She had zero period, which meant, in fact, all of our kids had zero period, which is of the devil, by the way, for those of you involved in school. Zero period means you get there at like 6:30 in the morning, which they're up early. They go and get the extra period in class. And anyway, she had zero period, but then she'd swim for hours on end. She'd get home, have some dinner, and then I'd been working all day as well, and then she'd get into her homework. And I remember one year she had a lit class, and she had to write all kinds of analysis and things. And she'd get started about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and she was, I don't know if she was a procrastinator or not, but she was. Okay, let's just admit it. She's in Africa right now. She doesn't know I'm talking about her. It's okay. But I remember I had to make a choice. She had writer's block and had a difficult time sometimes, and she needed some proofreading and some guidance. And I had to make a choice. Was I going to stay up and help her, or was I going to go and shut my eyes and get those precious winks of sleep that I desperately wanted? And many times I find myself going to bed at 1 o'clock and then have to get up that next morning to haul her to zero period. I know of long days that I would come home for work, and one of the things that I really tried to prioritize and do, even if I'm tired or stressed, is to help with dinner or the dishes. We have a rule in our house that if one person cooks, the other one cleans up. That shares the load a little bit. And then when our girls were young, it meant for me to bathe the kids. That was one of the things that I did, and we played games, and then I would try to get them into bed. Now, again, I could have tried to force my way and go sit on the couch and watch a game, but I always remembered my dad that was willing to sacrifice. Sometimes it meant not buying what I want so that they can have what they need. How many of you know that parenting is expensive? How many of you dads know that the wallet usually doesn't have a whole lot of greenbacks in it? In fact, that's actually, plastic's been good because they can't take the plastic. I'm not going to give it to them. So if I don't have any green, then I'm good. That worked out good. You know, and all those things seem to be very difficult, especially when kids have the tendency to be unappreciative. Anybody understand that? But does it really matter if they appreciate it? Well, yes, it does. We want them to be appreciated and be appreciative. But love says that we're going to sacrifice and give and hopefully teach them along the way to be appreciative, because that's what they need. Being a dad means time. A child's time in the home goes by so fast. I almost feel like I blinked and they're going off to college. I have 5 kids, soon to be 6. We're adopting a little boy from Vietnam, hopefully sometime this year. He's 13. My 4th daughter just graduated from high school. I have one of them home from college today. She made a crash trip from SAC, but 3 of them are on their own. The 4th is shortly to be there. And I realize how fast being a dad in this phase is gone. I mean, you just blink your eyes and they're off to Africa. Maybe we need to prioritize the time that we have, get off our phone and Facebook and TV and take time just to be with kids. Just a thought. Really, what's important at the end of the day? Finding out what somebody had for dinner? Really, I still can't understand that. Why? Is that really the most important thing in use of our time when we realize that we only have our family here for a short amount of time? I was privileged this week to be at 2 funerals. I say privileged because it is. One was an older gentleman, and one was a newborn. Within 2 days of each other. I found myself asking the question, what really is important in this life? Especially as we go into Father's Day, what do I say to guys that is encouraging, that really would make a difference? And I found myself asking that question, what is the most important thing in life? What really matters? And at the end of the day, I landed on these 2 conclusions. The first and foremost important thing is my relationship with the Lord. Because it's out of that everything else happens. But the second thing is my relationship with my loved ones, my family, my wife, my children. You just don't know. Life is very fragile and frail, and you just don't know. So how can we make today the best Father's Day? It's time for another high five for all those guys around us because we appreciate our dads. Come on, do that. Give some high fives. Good job, Noah. And this may be directed toward our kids today. I just want to say this. Kids, we love the gifts. Dads love those gifts. The ties. I'm actually thankful that my kids didn't do that because I just don't wear ties. You know, I have a bunch of them on a hanger that I use every once in a while, but I'm thankful that I don't get a tie all the time. They don't think about that. Now, they buy me Packers jerseys, and that's really important. Those are good things, but we love the gifts, the tie, the new barbecue, the new shirt. We love the thoughtful cards. All of those things are the best. I personally have a file in my office that's about that thick of all the cards and drawings and messages that I have throughout the ages of my kids when they couldn't spell anything, that daughter was D-O-D-D-R and all those fun spellings. Those are amazing. Keep those cards and letters coming. But I think I can speak for most of us dads in this room that the best gift is a simple hug and a few words like, I love you. And thanks for all that you do and have done for me. Now listen, that may be for the kids, but it's also for the old folks as well. I don't know what your experience with your dad's been. I don't know if he's still here or not. I've told many people that Mother's Day and Father's Day are some of the most challenging services to do because you always feel like you're walking on eggshells. Because so many people have issues with mom and dad, and children have different experiences. And how do you encourage dads and not make people feel bad? Or even today, like today, we have single moms in this room that are doing the very best that they can. I don't ever want them to feel guilted or shamed. In fact, I hope they feel like it's a good place. For those of you that don't know, they call me the weeping pastor, and I'm earning it today. I don't know where you're at with your own father. But honestly, there's nothing is as important as restored relationship. If you have issues, doggone it, get over them. Figure out how to navigate those things so that you can have restored relationship with your dad or your mom. Don't hold things long term. Get on the phone. Get in the car. It's worth the $6 a gallon to go. Restore a relationship. If you're holding on to anger and bitterness, let it go. As if your anger and bitterness is going to solve anything. It's like, some have said, it's like eating rat poison and expecting the rat to die. So my encouragement today to you is, no matter where you're at, whether you're a young person in this room or you're not so young, tell your dad that you love him, that you appreciate them, even if it's a struggle to find something that you appreciate of them. Appreciate the fact that they gave you life. They were part of that. What I found is that those words alone will probably keep me sacrificing for a long time. My kids say, "Dad, I love you. Thank you for everything." And I'm going to bust out the wallet, even though it's empty, and give the car keys to them and say, "Hey, just be careful as you go." That's not you yet, Levi. You can't borrow the car keys yet. Okay. He's already asking if he can try to drive, and no, son, we can't. And I want to say this in closing. If you're away from your Heavenly Father, don't let that go on any longer either. He loves you. He's a good father. He's not like our human fathers that are frail. He's perfect in all his ways. And he welcomes you. He welcomes you with open arms. Amen. Let's stand together.